again, everybody. This is Zach from Dirty Sexy Words, and this time I'm going to talk to you a bit about Femdom, both fact and fiction, both of which are completely valid. This isn't saying, oh, don't believe everything you read in novels about Femdom, because some of it certainly is based on personal experience, shall we say, and I should know, because I wrote one, and it is. I'm going to start off with talking a little bit generally about Femdom as a particular aspect of BDSM that some people are still unaware of almost. You get a lot of people thinking that it's all about, woman discovers her true subby self at the hands of a billionaire bastard. Now that can work for some people, and if that's your thing and you find that really, really, really hot, good, fine, enjoy, have a wonderful time. But as always, beware of the one true wayers with any kind of kink. Beware of the mandom who says, oh, you just think you're dominant because you haven't found the right man yet, No, mate, no. But, and for the purposes of this whole subject matter, when I say femdom, talking about dominant females, it's like that includes women and femmes, non-binary people who want to present in a feminine femme way, for the purposes of a particular scene, for a particular role. A lot of us have more than one self, so to speak, and that's all absolutely fine. Live in a world of fantasy and role play, however elaborate your DS dynamic is, you don't blatantly act it out in the veg aisle at Sainsbury's. Well, not unless you want more attention than you bargained for. Femdom, female-led relationships, as some people call it, is where normally it's a het dynamic or a binary dynamic, but not necessarily. You can get DS pairings where all participants are female or female identifying. That's all fine as well. And there are elements of being a femdom which give you a bit of an extra transgressive kick, particularly if you were one of those who were brought up to believe that little girls are sugar and spice and all things nice. A lady never raises a voice. Lady certainly never takes pleasure in popping on a strap-on and giving some bloke a good one from behind. That can all be tremendous fun. If it's something you're interested in exploring, there are quite a few how-to guides specifically for femdom, female-led relationships. There are loads of good guides to kink and how to be kinky that are applicable for any and all genders, pairings, roles, substoms, switches, tops, bottoms, anything. And those are useful too. If you want to learn stuff from books, that's good. The more reading, the better. Even if you read through a book and think, well, that's a load of old willy and no use at all. With a slight caution that a lot of BDSM how-to books were written 20 or more years ago. There was a great sort of explosion of kink around the turn of the century, so you got a lot of books, many of which are really, really good, but don't bother with the resources guides, because the resources guides still reference things like GeoCities websites and clubs that are now office blocks. I'm going to chat to you a bit about some of the books that I carry for people interested in femdom specifically. We'll start with the non-fiction. I mean, as an example of an older book, this is by Claudia Varin, a big name around the turn of the century, as I said. This copy is falling to bits, a bad job lot off eBay, and I think you can get it on Kindle now. I'd have to check, but I think you can get it on Kindle now. It is nice. It's loving, sensual, a lot of practical advice on things you could do, games you could play, a few little sexy vignettes in there as well to give you more inspiration. Yeah, not a bad book to read. And this one, which is again turn of the century, is the Mistress Manual. I remember this causing a certain amount of fuss when it came out, because a lot of the emphasis in this is, nice girls do tie men up and do terrible things to them. And it's all right if that's what you want to do. So it can come across as maybe a bit too hand-holdy in places. It's like if you already know what you want, who you are, and you've got someone willing to do all those things to stroke with, You might not necessarily find this your first port of call, though it is it's good, sound, thorough, lots of inspirations and ideas. It covers all sorts of things: conflicts, discipline, asserting your dominance, the mistress in action, finding or creating your perfect partner. And is it one of those with a resources guide in the back? Probably. No, actually it doesn't have that, so there wouldn't be much you need to ignore. There's stuff about archetypal fantasy, which is quite fun. And so, yeah, that's not a bad title, and it is, of course, from Greenery Press, who publish loads and loads of things that any perv would like to read. I'm now going to move on to a series of books which are modern. They're in the last few years, from a marvellous lifestyle dom whose name is Sharon Ferns, or Dom Ferns. And she writes books that are both for dominant women and for submissive men. Very much do what it says on the tin series of books. Femdom how-to guides, how to find a dominant woman. Which is, it's not F off and don't send her a pic of your dick. You know, there are sometimes you might think that that's all you need in such a book, but no, these are very sound. They ask you to think about what type of dominance you're looking for and what the ideal relationship would look like for you, and then how to go about it without making a howling knob of yourself, and how to be successful. As an additional, this is a short book. It doesn't need to be an epic length volume to be totally useful. How to write your online profile. Now, if you've ever listened in or read female femmes, women, female identified persons on VET talking about the approaches they get and the profiles that some of these approaches link to, and like, just don't. We don't want to see your willy unless we've asked. And you know, we want to hear a bit more about you than I've got no limits and I'll do anything you want. This is a silly way to present yourself. Anyone says to me I've got no limits, then I don't want to know, because that strikes me as somebody who doesn't know how to look after themselves, doesn't take responsibility, and you know, probably no fun. I like people who know what they want, might be willing to explore further, but have a good idea of who they are and what they're after. And this tells you all about how to set up a profile that will attract people to want to know more about you. And pictures and examples, yep, good guidance. To say this is kind of a series of books, because the next one is aimed more at all participants, how to make your first scene amazing. Again, for the newbie and also for somebody who's embarking on a new relationship, or what they hope might be a new relationship, somebody who perhaps wants to change the tone of an existing setup. Full of useful advice, very accessible. And the last one of 4 in this series is the most recent one, how to handle disobedience in a femdom relationship. Because, yep, subs can be naughty. I mean, they can refuse to comply. In some cases, it's bratting, and whether bratting works with your interactions or not is a matter of taste, the whole you do you thing. I don't mind a bit of a brat. In fact, I quite like them. It's a bit more fun if you've got to work for it. Sometimes it's a matter of somebody not being in the right state of mind for the particular scene you're doing, a conflict about something else. A lot of this book is like, you know, talk to each other. If there's something going on, talk about it, discuss it. You know, you may be in a really developed DS dynamic, but things can still go wrong. Somebody can not be feeling well. They can have worries about something outside your scenes, you know, work problems, money worries, all sorts. This is very good on communication and negotiation and understanding where each other's coming from, which is all sort of stuff that will help you build something that works, that makes you happy. Because the whole point of a kink relationship is that it makes your life better, not worse. Bits of it might hurt. Nothing is all smooth sailing. You need always negotiation, communication, thinking about what each other needs, not stropping if you're not getting your own way, taking it easy. Right, I'm going to move on very shortly to talking about femdom in fiction. And if you've all been good, I'm going to read you some very naughty BDSM femdom fiction later on. But in the meantime, wash your hands,